Hello. In this video, we are going to look at Java arrays, which is a reference data type in Java.
In the previous video, we saw how to create and initialize array and how to find the length of the array.
Now, let us have a look at how we can access the array elements individually and using loops. We have already seen this. We can access individual array elements using the array name and index. Okay, so index or the indices are also known as subscript, and an array name with the subscript is known as a subscripted variable. So we have an array marks. We have initialized it with 5 integer values. We know memory location will be allocated for 5 integers. One int is 4 bytes. So 5 elements would be 20 bytes. Index is from 0 to size minus 1. Size is 5. Minus 1 is 4. So the index or in the indices or the subscript are from 0 to 4. Now if we print system.out.println marks of square bracket 2, we know 2 is the third element because counting starts from 0. So in this case, it will print 23. Okay, and if we do mark square bracket 4, in this case, it will print 27. Okay. Valid subscripts or valid index for any array, we have been mentioning this again and again, are from 0 to the length of the array minus 1. Anything other than that, okay, less than 0 or greater than length minus 1 are known as out of bounds. The boundary of the array is from 0 to length minus 1. And if you try to access an element below 0 or higher than length minus 1, it is known as out of bound. And this will raise an error known as array index out of bounds exception. Okay, each word starts with a capital letter. You won't be asked this in the exam, but just for your knowledge, it is array index out of bounds. Exception means it's a runtime error. Okay, it will not cause you a compile time error. Your code will compile fine. But when it is running, when it is executing, it will give you an error. Okay. So same. Now, by now we are familiar with our marks array. This is an array, int array of 5 elements. We are initializing and creating the array at the same time. Memory is allocated for 5 integer variables. And now, if we try to access marks square bracket 5, we know valid index is from 0 to 4. If we try to access marks square bracket 5, which is higher than the upper boundary, we will get an error, java.lang array index out of bounds exception. Do note, you're not required to memorize the name of the exception, but you do need to know this will cause an exception. Same here. If we try to access anything below 0, minus 1, minus 2, anything, we will get the same error, array index out of bounds exception. Okay, so this is how we access individual array elements, okay, using the correct or the valid subscripts and the invalid subscripts. Let us now have a look at a sample question based on a past board paper. Okay, so here we have an array called X. The square brackets denote it's an array of type string. Okay, and it is initialized because of the curly braces, and it initialized to 4 different values: artificial intelligence, IoT, machine learning, and big data. Okay, so the question was, give the output of the following statements. The first one was system.out.println X square bracket 3. Now, X square bracket 3 is the index. We know index starts from, correct, 0. So you have 0, 1, 2, 3. So X square bracket 3, the answer would be big data. Okay. The next question was system.out.println x.length. Now, what did we say? Length is the instance variable for an array. It tells how many elements are present in the array or the size of the array. Okay. So in this case, there are 4 elements present. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and the answer would be 4. Now, the next thing that we are going to look at is how do we access array elements using a for loop. Okay. So we can say, okay, we can access them using a loop, and that is the whole advantage of using the array data type rather instead of using individual integer variables. Okay. So I've declared an array here again marks, and we have reduced the size to 3 so that we can show the repetition in a shorter period rather than using 5 elements. Okay. So we have an array here of 3 elements. Index will be from 0 to 2, 0, 1, 2. Now, we write a for loop by specifying 3 things: the initial, the condition, and the update. So we have the initial, which is I equals 0. The condition is the I. Okay, the I is going to be used for counting how many elements are there. So the first valid index is 0, and it should be less than length. Remember, we said the valid index will always be 1 less than the length of the array. So in this case, the length of the array will be 3 and our I can go from 0, okay, 1 and 2, but it should not be 3 or more. And then we have the update and we are simply right now printing out each and every element of the array using a loop. Okay, so just let us have a look at it, how this goes. So first, as we know in a for loop, this will revise your loops as well. So we say the initial happens, which is int I is equal to 0. So I is a variable which is created in memory and the initial value given to it is 0. It then checks the condition whether 0 is less than the length marks.length. Marks.length is 3. So it is checking if 0 is less than 3. Is it? Yes, it is true. So when it is true, we go inside the loop and we will print the value of marks square bracket I, which will translate to marks square bracket. Okay, marks square bracket I will translate to marks square bracket 0. Okay, which in our case is the first element of the array, 20. So the output will be 20. Okay, once we finish the body of the loop, this is known as the body of the loop. What happens is the update. So it comes over here, the code comes over here, and the value of I is increased by 1, which is 0. So it will become 1. We again check the condition. Is 1 less than the length, which is 3? Yes, it is true. So we go inside the body and we print marks square bracket 1 in this case. So do note the name of the array remains the same. The only thing changing is the index and hence we are able to use a loop. Okay, so we say marks square bracket 1. We know marks square bracket 1 is the second element, which is 25. 25 comes on the screen. And so it continues with I plus plus, I becomes 2. Check the condition. It is true. Go inside the body of the loop. Mark square bracket 2, which in this case is the third element, 23. Print that on the screen. Then again check the update. Update I will become 3 now. It was 2. Now it becomes 3. Check the condition. Is 3 less than 3? No, 3 is not less than 3 now. So it is false and the loop stops. So we can access individual array elements using a for loop. You can also do the same thing using a while or a do while loop. Okay. We can also modify array elements using the for loop. Okay, so in the previous example, we were just reading the values of the arrays. Suppose we have to change the values of the array, we can do that using the for loop. How do we do that now? Back to our original array marks. This time the for loop, instead of an system.out.println, we are writing a statement marks square bracket I plus equal to, which means marks square bracket I is equal to marks square bracket I plus 7. So basically what we are doing is we want to increment the value of each element of the array by 7. Okay, there should be a semicolon here. So fine. So what? Same thing. Initial I becomes 0. Is it less than 3? Yes. We go inside the body and we say mark square bracket 0. Increase that value by 7. So this is mark square bracket 0, which is 20 right now. If we add 7 to it, it will become 27. Okay. Increment the counter. I was 0. So it will become 1 now. Check the condition again. Is it less than 3? True. That is true. So go inside the body. Now mark square bracket 1, which is this 25. Increase it by 7 and that becomes 32. Continuing it further, I becomes 2. 2 is less than 3. So we go inside. We increment marks square bracket 2 by 7. Marks square bracket 2 right now is 23. Okay. So 23 plus 7 becomes 30. We increment the value of the counter to 3. 3 less than 3 is false, and that is how the loop stops. So we can access the array elements using a for loop, and similarly, we can change the array elements using a for loop. That's it for now. Happy learning.